Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Words of Heart podcast. I am your host, Dion Sanchez, and in this particular episode, it is just me chatting with you, my audience, and catching you up on a few things that are on the horizon for me, your host. So, for starters, if you have not tuned into any of the last few episodes of the Words of Heart podcast, let me catch you up to speed. On one of the last episodes, which was called Podcast Dreams, in that particular episode, I indicate my hopes and ambitions for the new year in regards to my podcast, Words of Heart. And I also mentioned that Words of Heart podcast is featured in a magazine called Women Who Podcast. And I am pleased to announce that that article featuring yours truly and the Words of Heart podcast is now out. So if you have a computer or a cellular device of any kind, please do not hesitate to purchase the 22 winter issue of Women Who Podcast magazine. You have the opportunity to see myself and my podcast featured among many other inspiring female podcasters as well, and to Kathy Barron and all the staff and writers, especially Elaine Best, who wrote the article on me amplifying my mission and my vision as far as my podcast, and just doing a wonderful job of amplifying my voice specifically. I cannot be more grateful for you guys at the Woman Who Podcast magazine staff and the writers. And I'm just so unbelievably blessed that God has opened the door of podcasting into my life, because that article just is such a huge achievement in my journey, truly, as someone who struggled with mental health as a result of their birth. And then to be using my voice to advocate mental health on my podcast and amplify other people's stories and voices, it's incredible. And I could not be more grateful for the magazine to give me the opportunity to highlight my vision, which is pretty simple, and that is simply reminding others that they are never alone. You are never alone. And I stand by that and continue to stand by that in podcasting and in my life in general. So if you have a cellular device, feel free to check out or purchase the recent issue of the winter 2022 issue of Women Who Podcast magazine. So that is one bit of news there for you. In other news, aside from producing and running this podcast, Words of Heart, you have before you, and the fact that you guys tune in every single week, I don't know what you're doing. Perhaps you're listening to this in the shower or something. I don't know. And I probably don't want to know, but however you choose to listen to it, aside from podcasting, I'm also a college student. So I do a typical academic and college struggles, just like any other adult would my age. And with that being said, I am on the precipice, or I don't know if that's even a word. I am on the very cusp, that is a word though, on the very cusp of finishing my degree program, as in being done with college forever. I'm very pleased to say that, because I do have an associate degree in general education, but the degree I'm currently studying for is called graphic design. So I'm majoring in graphic design for my degree program. It is a very challenging and intimidating field of study, and the professors are just as intimidating, but I couldn't be more grateful to amplify my creative pursuits in a way that has the potential to impact others and also perhaps make me a little bit of money. So in that respect, I'm very pleased that I am on the cusp of finishing. I have 2 classes this term. And in the summer, I have an internship, which I'm fingers crossed. So if you are big on fingers crossing or praying, if you will, please keep me in your well thoughts and wishes on getting an internship this summer, as that is a last key component to me finishing my degree program. And I'm just very happy and excited to be done with school. And I'm just looking forward to all the things that are on the horizon for me. And quite honestly, I'm nervous and excited about the trajectory of where my life is going to be going. I would be done with school and I'll be having more time to dedicate to my job and, of course, dedicate to my podcast in general. So, with that being said, first off, to all the guests who have appeared on my podcast thus far and will be appearing on my podcast in the coming weeks, thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to share your story on my platform. And I truly admire you for being as vulnerable and transparent as you have been on my platform, because I understand sharing your story could not be easy. And it certainly couldn't be easy to just share it to someone you're just now meeting. So, again, to all my guests who have appeared on my podcast and will appear on my podcast in the coming weeks, thank you so much for allowing me the chance to share your story, because I truly believe each and every one of our stories has the power to help someone and, quite frankly, possibly save someone's life. Being that blunt here, because it has the power, and I fully believe that. So, my audience, as you are well aware, I'm the sole creator of my podcast, Words of Heart. I produce and edit and upload content for you on several platforms. I upload it to Facebook and YouTube and the regular podcast hosting site. And I have guest responses, probably 100 or millions guest responses every single day. And it gets really overwhelming. And I'm very blessed and touched, truly, that so many people want to use my podcast to share their stories. And it just warms my heart, truly, that they want to use my platform to do that. And I'm very grateful for that. So, being the sole creator can be very overwhelming, and it can take a lot of energy at times, producing and uploading as much content on a consistent basis. And I myself would not be a good advocate for mental health if I didn't take my own mental health into consideration. And I think taking my own mental health into consideration is highly important. I mean, I tell you guys how important it is, your mental health, on my podcast every single day. So if I didn't take my own advice, then I wouldn't be a true advocate. And I don't want to represent who I am in a false way. So with that being said, this coming up this March, I am wrapping up the current season of the Words of Heart podcast. As I mentioned, there are some things in my life that are coming up. I will be done with school, so I need to put focus on this last spring semester. I will also be applying for an internship, which is fundamental to me graduating. And I need a break. I need to put my mental health first and foremost. And I told myself at the beginning of this new season, launched in August, which would be the current season right now. We are about 50 episodes into it. And I told myself I was not going to overdo it. I was not going to overdo it and overwhelm myself with so many episodes. I made a commitment to myself. I was going to make sure my mental health was a priority, and I'm staying true to that, because I can't advocate mental health if I don't work on my mental health. And I find that to be important. And I don't want to overexert myself or overwhelm myself, because I am the sole creator. I don't have a co-host or a producer or an editor, nor would I want one, because I find what I do to have so much heart behind it, and I just want to do that solely on my own. So, but doing it on your own is overwhelming. So this coming up March, I'm going to wrap up the season. I don't know specifically what date in March, but in March, I'm wrapping up the current season. So obviously, you guys can still get in touch with me on the following platforms, but I am going to wrap it up in March. I do a lot for this podcast, and there are other things in my life that are a bit more important than this podcast. And I need to focus on that. So that is what is going on in my life and what is coming up from this point forward. Of course, I will still be uploading episodes long until March. I don't know precisely when the day is that I'm going to wrap up the season. I do have a couple of guests appearing in March. But when I do wrap up the season, obviously I will share that in a final episode like I normally do. So that is the trajectory of my life. And I'm looking forward to what is to come. And I'm a bit nervous. And I just want to put as much energy into those matters as possible. And also maintain my own sanity and remember that my mental health is important, because if I don't work on my mental health, then I'm not staying true to my vision and my podcast. And I want to stay true to it. I want to continue being a warrior for change. And in order to be a warrior for change, I have to work on myself and continue to do what's right for my mind, body, and spirit. So for all my listeners, thank you for tuning in to the latest episode of the Words of Heart podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, if you are chuckling, or if you're on the moon, here are the ways to listen to it on the following platforms. You can listen to it on Facebook at the Words of Heart podcast. You can also find us on YouTube under the same name, and wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple, Spotify, and Google. You can also leave reviews or ratings on a variety of platforms. You can leave reviews and ratings on Apple Podcasts, and you can leave a rating on Spotify. Please do not hesitate to do so. As much as I don't want to promote this particular fact as to getting reviews and all that stuff, because I don't want to be annoying about it, please don't hesitate to leave a review or rating if anything about any of my episodes has touched you in some way. Because at the end of the day, I just want this podcast to make an impact and inspire and just reach the depths of someone's heart and uplift them and remind them that they are never alone. So if you can extend your support by leaving a review or rating, that would mean so much to me. And if you want to get in touch with me on any level whatsoever, you can reach me on Instagram at HeartWarrior25 and on Twitter at HeartWarrior24. So to all my listeners, stay healthy, stay safe. If you're listening to it on the moon, I'm going to manifest this into the year. It is 2022. Anything is possible. If you're listening to it from the moon, let me know. Again, I want this podcast to reach everybody, not just planet Earth, but beyond Earth. Okay? I want to reach other dimensions. Okay? Other galaxies that have yet to be discovered. Okay? Let's make that possible. But until then, from all of us here on planet Earth, I'm your host, Dion Sanchez. Again, stay healthy, stay safe, and until next time, bye.